Well, it's a good evening here from the studios in Springwood, Brisbane, Queensland, Australia. And my co-host tonight is sitting directly below me in the Northern Hemisphere. It's my good mate Andrena, and below her again in the Southern Hemisphere, Michael Lamb, all the way from Queensland, Australia, who I've had the pleasure of meeting several times on many occasions. And I'm looking forward to tonight because we're jam-packed with information, knowledge, and esoteric science. So, Andrena.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and hello wherever you are in the world, and welcome. And to our regular listeners around the planet. Well, Jeff met Michael a little while ago, and he said, well, we need to have this guy on the show. He's so full of knowledge and he does so many different things. So long story short, here we are. I've spoken to Michael a couple of times before the show, and Jeff did say we could have him on the show every week talking about something different. Well, we can't do that at the moment, so we're going to have a pick and mix of his talents today. So, Michael, would you like to share? I know you've got so many keys in different places that you could share. So, where would you like to start? How you've got on this journey and all the different steps that, I mean, you do so many things. I just don't know where to start. So, we're just going to let it flow. But I know one thing we did talk about was nature, sound, and color. So, which is very dear to my heart. So,
I told him about pyramids and pyramid energy in the stars.
I get in first. So
yes.
we might be able to do it at the end.
I think we just had that conversation concerning somebody else we know.
Right.
Well,
so Michael,
yeah.
Welcome. Thank you for coming on the show.
Welcome. Thank you very much. Well, good evening, good morning, good night, and exactly. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for having me on the show. Yes. What a journey. So what would you like me to start at the beginning, the end, or halfway through, and then transverse from there? My name is Michael Andrew Lamb. So yes, I'm this Kabbalistic alchemist that's been studying many of the great cultures and many different aspects of many philosophies for a long time. So my journey started when I was quite young. I was, for example, I suppose, a very hypersensitive person and aware of a lot of things that I didn't know, that I thought other people were aware of too. So you could feel people's emotions and energies as well. Like you could almost feel everything had a feeling or a sense of awareness that was, it was a beautiful thing. It was like you could telepath with like a dog or a cat, or you could empath with a tree, and you could feel its pain. You know, if I was going through pain, I could feel like that as well. So anyway, I started to grow, and then obviously, a long story short, I moved towards the Eastern philosophies, as it were. My brother brought home a really interesting book called The Cosmic Conspiracy by Stan Deyo back in the early 80s, and it just sort of blew my mind. I thought, wow, this is next level. Also, he had some pretty advanced books he's bringing out there. There was the I think it was the Monster Manual on Deities and Demigods. So I started studying all these different negative and positive beings, plus all these different types of angelic beings or deities and gods and goddesses. And I thought, wow, this is phenomenal. You've got all these different pantheons, whether it be Norse or Aztec or Mayan. You know, they're from all over the world. Plus, you had the Celtic and different Germanic tribes had their own different deities. It was interesting too, because things started to make sense. I didn't understand where the word Easter came from, whereas if you looked it up in the Northern European, they had a goddess called Estore, and instead of the chocolate bunny and the chocolate Easter egg, her symbol for spring was the egg, and obviously the bunny representing fertility, the bunny and the moon and everything like this. So breaking down these things, it was fantastic. It was not just like I was looking for study in the Eastern philosophies. As I say, I'll start with them. There was the Zen aspects and Taoism, plus there was the Japanese system I was studying. So Shintoism, the way of the deity is to find peace in oneself. So if you go through the Shinto shrine, at the end of the Shinto shrine, you go through these beautifully calm gardens, and there at the end is a mirror. So you're looking at the reflection of one's own self. So I was absolutely blown out by this. And obviously then, it was Hinduism, and then it was Islam, and then Judaism, and then finally back to the West it came. And that's where I thought, wow, it's a lot more hidden in the West. It's what we call occultism, which isn't like so much dark and sinister, but it's hidden. That's what the word occult means. Like the word pagan, it means people of the country, people of the green folk. They're simple. They love beautiful connection with nature, and also they have a connection to the stone monuments. So you have them all through Europe, obviously all over the world. But just for example, in southern England, you've got the great ley line there that runs through from like Old Sarum, is it? Then it goes through.
Cornwall to Avebury.
Yeah, basically it does. I'm just trying to think. Stonehenge, Avebury, right through to Glastonbury Tor. So there's a lot of energy effects there. Obviously, you'd be very much aware of the crop circles and things like that. And they tried to disprove them with two, drunken blokes from the pub doing it with boards and that. It's brilliant how they can do that. They can biolocate as well, so they're happening all over the planet. But the shapes are quite three-dimensional. I do digress anyway. So my Eastern philosophy brought me into the West again, and I met a really brilliant teacher who's British, and he'd studied under master as well, and he and his partner proceeded to teach like a healing, universal healing classes. That was called the School of Inner Knowledge back in, I think it was 86. I started attending the first classes. So I've still got the original books and all my original notes that I wrote down on those classes, and they're brilliant. Sooner or later, then we found out by 87, I was seriously doing 2 classes a night, and then 2 a week. So I was like about 4 classes a week. And that was basically the Kabbalah. And it wasn't just like what you see on the surface. It's a lot deeper and much, much more rich with color and sound. So anywhere you want to go from there, I'll take you wherever you want to go. It's great. So
Yeah.
I've met some brilliant people. I have traveled and that as well. And you get to feel different places and different energies. I mean, we only just got up with Jeffrey. It was only about 3 months ago, and we were actually just at Bitterburg again. It had been restored. So the vibe there was brilliant. Once again, it was quite powerful. Once again, you're around mountains and, valleys, and you can tune right in there. And it was really good to see that the energy, how that place had been restored back to its original self, whereas there is a lot of places where the energy's been abandoned or left behind. I believe there's about 3,300 and something sacred stone sites and monuments all over the world on ley lines and vortex points. So you can look at that if you wanted to study that. I have a course on vortexes and wormholes, and later you can get into stargates as well. I mean, that's what it's not like it's fantasy at all. I mean, Einstein-Rosenberg bridge is how you get through 4 dimensions into the 5th dimension. It's quite doable. Tesla had a lot of that kind of knowledge too. But anyway, getting back to the really fun stuff, I love nature spirits, and also everything from dowsing to, really enjoying teaching about elementals, and many other courses that I do. So, yeah. Where do you want to go with this? I'm really happy. I'm really stoked to be on 88 FM, and it's a blessing. So we can start with the galactic map there at the back.
Yeah. I was going to ask about that. That looks very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Can you see it? Normally I blow it up and have it like on the screen, on a larger screen, but it's a very, very easy way to understand the blend of astrology and astronomy, what we call a cosmology. You can actually see the shapes of the constellations, all the way around it. And it's really simple because it shows you the 12 zodiac like a clock face, like the 12 apostles or the 12 tribes of Israel. Each one of these tribes has connections to star systems, because as one grows, we find out that we're sons and daughters. So we're sons, stars. We carry a soul and a spirit within our own physicality, and our mental mind is like our own onboard computer. Once again, it's not truly who we are. Our mind is a brilliant thing, yet it can fathom phenomenal things. It can think abstract thoughts and pick up thoughts as well. So with the soul, it's more like our character and our personality, and it connects to our astral body. So that's very, very good if you're connecting to your dreams, or you're connecting to, you know, loved ones from previous cycles or ancestors. Yeah, that's it's like understanding the layers of our own bodies and how that works in the greater scheme of things. So yeah, wrapping up my story. Once I started on the journey in the late 80s, you know, I was hooked till about the mid 90s, and then obviously I left the school and studied, you know, having a family and everything like that, and took up my own studies, because you never stopped. It's something that I think that definitely carries over from previous cycles. You know, you have, like, when traveling through Europe and Asia, it was like deja vu on steroids. You know, you could have like 3 or 4 in an hour. I've never felt anything like it. It's like, wow, I've been here before. And it's like, wow. Even just sort of going around Glastonbury tour. Yeah, I know the way, you know what, you know, so you've never been there, but your intuition's telling you as well. But there's also that brilliant reconnection with things that seem familiar, as it were. It's like mapping out your dreams. I think there was that brilliant movie Inception, and, you know, the dream within the dream within the dream within the dream. You start to do that. I just had one the other night. It's not uncommon to have a dream within a dream. You wake up and you're still in the dream. Yeah, and also it becomes quite lucid. You're actually aware, and it's actually leading up to what's about to take place in your coming day or days. Yeah, there's so many areas you can go with this, and that's what I like. I'm still constantly growing. Still feel like I'm 10 years old, you know. Look at this amazing stone, you know, this is brilliant, you know. Yes.
You've obviously got an amazing thirst for knowledge, haven't you? You've
absolutely. It's a food. Yeah, absolutely. If I passed over, I think I could just feed on knowledge, you know, through the realms, as it were. You know, it comes down to 5 basic principles from what I've gathered from most of the different philosophies. You know, you have color, sound, number, shape, and vibration. So it's all written into us, you know, in the ancient books and texts. You know, we created man in the image of ourselves. So, you know, we're likened to images of the platonic solids, for example, or images of things that are infinitely connected to us. What have we got? Like 100 trillion cells, and within each of those cells 100 trillion atoms. So basically you're a universe within your own self. So if you're meditating, you're going into the microcosm, you know, you can explore your own layers and depths of your own being. You can project your consciousness to, like, the tip of your, you know, tips of your fingers, or you can move it down into your feet or inside. And I do teach these meditations, and also have, you know, obviously CDs, and now I'm up to USBs, and I want to do the live streaming courses off my website, where you can teach around the world and show people how to project their consciousness, you know, within themselves and outside themselves, because it's ultimately we're at the center of the universe. I know that sounds fantastic, but it's true. It's like we have 7 directions. We have north, south, east, west, up, down, and we have center, or the centaur. And when we start going to that, you're centered. You can move multi-directional, omnidirectional anywhere, because you're like compressed energy down to an infinite spark of life, you know, like a sun. So even if I was doing a course on stars or planets, the first thing, you know, I explain to people generally at the beginning of the class is, hi everybody, my name is Michael Lamb, and I talk really, really fast, so let me know if you need me to slow down, because it's like having multiple channels or multiple radio stations. You can just tune in, and particularly if you've cleaned your, you know, your body and your auric energy field, your spine, I think it runs 7 main frequencies. So basically based on the old, you know, rainbow system. Once you've got all that happening, you know, open channels, and you can access not just your main 7 chakras, you've got other chakras too. You got, you know, 8, the transpersonal. You can go through the soles of your feet. That's what it's called, soles of your feet. It's really simple. when you know what you're looking at or what you're feeling or sensing into. So if you're sleeping with stones or, you know, books and that, and you're aware, you can download a lot of the energy as well. And the universe is infinite. So where do you want to go with this? Also, as one attunes, I want to, in my approach to life, actually tell or show people how that they can become infinitely connected to life. And also, as you start to attune and open your energy field, you will be presented with a lot of knowledge. And depending on your, let's say, spiritual maturity, they will take you. They are beings, and people say, oh, what, God? Well, we got heaps of gods. We have got infinite gods and goddesses. And you can look at them as extraterrestrials or diva, or you can look at them as jinn, or whichever way. But it's all comes down to order within the universe. For example, I think the easiest way for me to explain energy is the sun and the moon. The sun creates infinite life force. It really does. It creates, I don't know, like 1 trillion tons of life force every nanosecond, from every blade of grass, and through photosynthesis, every living thing. And also you have all the atmosphere, you know, all your storms and weather systems on this planet is absolutely phenomenal what it does. It's not random, it's intelligence. So it's a sun being. So basically you have dozens and dozens of cultures have these sun gods. So why wouldn't you look at, just like an invisible man, you look at, you know, consciousness. What's a light so bright you cannot look at it? It's the sun. So it's, our spirit is the same. Okay, we're like young suns or fallen angels or fallen cosmonauts, astronauts, whatever way you want to look at it, whichever way you stack it, that's who we are. And we go through cycles to wake up to who we have been, and we can access timelines down our ancestral line. You know, our blood's very important. That is life force, as it were. So once again, if you understand that we're sun beings and we have all these different cultures, we can access anything we need to know, like the Akashic Library. You know, it becomes natural. It's not something that's intangible or, you know, invisible, that doesn't exist. It's like, for example, the sun's rays, you know, light, color, sound, creation, the growth of trillions of trees and plants, plus every single living thing on this planet needs the sun in our solar system, just happens to be called a solar system, in harmony with the, I mean, you look at the Greek pantheon of gods and goddesses, or you could look at the, you know, Macedonian or the Aztec or the Norse or the Egyptian. Each of the gods and goddesses relate to the planets. For example, you know, Jupiter, you know, in Roman, you know, Latin is called Zeus, you know, so Zeus and Hera being Jupiter, plus all the, you know, the moons. Mars is Ares, you know, Venus is Aphrodite. They're all transpersonal. They can all be adapted, I suppose, so that you can sort of layer energy. You know, you get it. Oh, this is this type of energy. It's a feminine energy or a masculine energy with this type of flavor and this kind of sound and color frequency, as it were. So I hope that all starts to make sense. You know, Saturn, of course, is where the word Satan comes from, because Saturn's the you know, the reaper, what you know, what you do, what you sow, because controls karma, you know, which is a universal law. It's not unscientific. I mean, for example, Einstein and Tesla would say, you know, for every action there's a reaction, which is basically karma, same as, you know, whichever way you want to stack it from whatever philosophy you want to roll from. It's interchangeable. So you understand that these planets have possibly what people say like a godlike energy or a powerful energy that dictates where we're going. But there's many different types of astrology and astronomy that you can access, you know, so you understand the movement. As you understand the stars and the planets, then you understand your own microcosm as well, because it's a reflection, you know, molecule to the, you know, the galaxy, as it were. Cool, eh?
Fascinating, eh?
You'll never be bored for the rest of your life.
You're not kidding. Not kidding.
Oh, they're the Pleiades. That's cool. Yes, fantastic. They're written about a lot in many, I think just about every culture in the world has something to do with the Pleiades. There are many different names as well, but they're very, very much written about, and they go back thousands of years too. So ancient names, those stars in the constellation Taurus.
Yeah.
Mm.
You're talking about you do things on Zoom. I know with
Mhm.
this shutdown and all the carry-ons on,
Mhm.
many people did things on Zoom, workshops, meditations,
Yes.
because they couldn't go anywhere. It was perfect for people to tune in. And I mean, now there's workshops and courses Zoom here everywhere, which
That's
is
right.
great. So it's like widening the field of people's learning and understanding, and
Yes.
so many of these things are free, which is great. I see we got the frogs joining us again.
Yeah, the frogs are joining us. It's lovely. I thought they were mine, but they're yours. So
Well, they're not mine.
no, I just mine.
Can
Yes,
you hear them? I thought I turned down my microphone.
they want to sing with us. Yes,
There you go.
I love that. It's gorgeous.
Can you hear me?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You got a frog in your throat.
Yeah.
That's a terrible pun. No, okay.
So, with all of your knowledge and wisdom and where you are now, what do you find people are wanting to know the most, or to find out the most, or to learn about themselves? What, because obviously the veils are lifting, and people are seeing more, sensing more, feeling more. They're getting more intuitive, and now starting to ask questions. What do you feel now? Because I know for me, being in nature is so powerful. I just love hugging trees, and I talk to the everything as I go along. And yes, I'm away with the fairies, but I don't mind. Yeah. So what do you think is the greatest thing that's going to help people now as we're evolving more and more?
I believe finding about themselves. So I think it's the balance of emotions, because basically every thought that we have and one has is connected to emotion. So thought creates emotion, emotion creates thought. So emotions are more to feeling, and thoughts are more to I suppose the air element, and feelings more to the water. So it's air and water, as it were. So, and you have the fire and the earth. I'm just looking at it from the elements. What I'm trying to say here is, I think people need to understand how emotions work, because we have a lot of things that are going on this planet, whether they be really good or really, really bad. And people want to know why the world is the way it is. And that's not a black and white question. It takes a long time to explain that until you get to see it. But there's certain things, as they say, or as Sir Jack Nicholson said, you can't handle the truth. So how far down the rabbit hole you want to go? And in the end, the rabbit hole becomes a dragon's cavern. And people, I feel, they ask me, they want to know, how can I access myself, or how can I remember my dreams, or how do I understand, for example, when I feel bad, how do I get out of this funk? What is it? Do I need to take this or need to take that? Yes, obviously, good diet, living in, keeping close to nature when you can. I mean, we have to live and work in amongst cities and towns, and socialize with other people, but we need to understand who we are at the outset of the day. Because if we're picking up thoughts, for example, I'll just give you an example. The average person is between 30 to 70,000 thoughts a day. It might sound ridiculous, but that's pretty damn close. If you look at everything from picking up your toothbrush in the morning to what you're going to wear, or whatever, the thoughts are phenomenal. But realizing which thoughts are your own as opposed to what you're picking up, because transmitters and receivers are also generators and batteries. So even our chakras, once you start working with them, they're electromagnetic transducers. Actually, they're a higher vibration than electromagnetism too. You're actually tapping into source field consciousness. So something like pranic, or mana, or what, real energy, whichever way you look at it, like it's fifth dimensional consciousness energy that you tap. But people just want it. They want things simple. I mean, I do teach, beginners, intermediate, advanced, and my favorite aspect is, working with the high energy, but people want to get back to the basics. Getting back to the basics is good. You still need those basic aspects. If you can identify the negative emotions and the positive emotions, let's say, for example, roughly there's about 220 emotions, everything from frivolousness to negativity to laziness to positivity to confidence to ferociousness to drive, motivation. They're emotions. So if you look at it, it's the fifth element. 5 is E, energy in motion. That's what emotion is. It's like ego is energy going, and ego sort of comes with the with the spirit. So once you understand the makeup, I think some people need to know that, but get back to basics, understanding how you think and feel. That way you can checkmate it. Hey, I don't want to feel that. So learning to sense emotions is a beginning. You can go into the highest aspects of spirituality, but understanding how you think and feel so that you can pick up what is truth to you. For example, if any of us were to walk into a room and two people got an argument, let's say 5 minutes beforehand, we'd feel that. You would feel that. You'd know the tension in the room would be so thick you could cut it with a knife. So that's the beginning of understanding emotional perception. All right. And also your intuition before we actually got to that particular place with the people that had the argument, you'd be getting it through the solar plexus. That's why it's your soul body or your astral body wired into your spirit. It's not your mind feeling that. Okay. Get that? Does that make sense? It's really, really simple. But you would.
Totally.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And you need that balance. I'm going to say, okay, this is what's happened. Can I do anything to this situation? Maybe these two people needed to have this, argument to get it out or whatever. You still got to release it. I mean, even the gods get angry, and have a look at thunderbolt of lightning. Yeah, exactly, because it's a natural course. They just take a lot longer to get there, as it were. Whereas a lot of people have to understand about emotional triggers as well. If they want to go this way, it's an infinite pathway, and you can stop off and just enjoy your life if that's what you want to do, which is what I do too. And I step off and just smell the roses, go to the beach, do these things, because it's not like you've got to be seriously dedicated and go to the ashram and get up and meditate. If that's what's working, fine. I'm not knocking any philosophy. I look at my life as I'm a part of every religion and philosophy, and I'm of none of it. That way I can be neutral, which is the pillar of Kabbalah. It's not like it's preaching a religion. It's just neutrality. You can go to negative, positive, masculine, feminine off there. You're just balancing the energies. Once again, it's like a radio dial. You're just tuning it in, and you can work with the most difficult people or the most difficult situations, and once you finish with it, you let it go. You wash it off, as it were. So I know it's a long-winded way to give you an answer to what people are mostly interested in, but that's the basics, that I look at. And yeah, I suppose people have they want to know answers to things, and it's, once again, how far down do you want to go? Because sometimes it's not a black and white thing, because then the depth of something, you're immediately going to be called a conspiracy theorist or something like that. And it's not like theory. I follow conspiracy facts or something like, hang on, why is that? People, if they want to question something, you still got to be able to function in the material world. You still got to present yourself to family, friends, and earn money, or create a business, or whatever you want to do works with your life. It's got to be practical and workable for you in whatever system, society, or core unit you're working in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, cool? Totally. Because I know, like, when you talk about thoughts, like we create our own reality, and a lot of people think, well, I didn't ask for this, and what have you. But if you sit quiet and think back about things, you realize, yeah, I've created this. But also, I know for me now, I'm aware of what I'm thinking, and thoughts are, whereas before you could do all the time. And it's slowed right down now, so that you're more open to receiving communication. But I think we ought to talk a bit about nature and nature spirits. We'll leave a bit for the for the pyramids at the end.
Yes. Okay.
But
You
yeah,
okay with that, Jeffrey? That's all.
he's on mute at the minute to cut the frogs out, so we're all right.
Okay, good. All right, and that's it. You cut the frogs. You're on fire. Okay.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
so so that really fascinates me, because I've got lots of crystals that I've accumulated and been wrapping from Australia and what have you. So I've been going around planting crystals in different parts as well, you know, sort of doing my little activation in the crystal and plunking it here, there and everywhere. So so for me it's important that I can do whatever I can to help the earth and all, you know, the elementals and the divas and things.
Yes. Once again, looking at it, it's such a beautiful thing because most of the movies and most of these video games, particularly the really challenging ones, people are after, they're chasing crystals or artifacts or something that has power or energy that's going to help them solve their lives. And it's the same as what's been happening on this planet for aeons and aeons and aeons. It's interesting, like, I mean, our lasers that we use, or even our computers and our phone technology, it's quartz silicon, and also it's high-end metals. The metals and the stones are intelligence. They're living stones. They're metals, and particularly like when you go into metals, that, and obviously an alchemist, you absolutely enchanted by them. Obviously, like copper is a conductor of electricity. We used to also, with water and plumbing, use copper because it kind of purifies the water. You know, obviously arthritis, if you're wearing copper, because the blood has iron and copper, that they tend to go together. It's really good for that if you've suffered from those sorts of things. Metals have got very strong therapeutic aspects. You know, I mean, people say, is that scientifically proven? Well, I don't know. It's just been around for thousands of years. Just about every culture's got it. So, and imagine like the properties of gold, and that's interesting because it gets into a very, very powerful connection of what's really been happening on the planet. If you go to follow the gold, you'll follow where the gods are. Wherever there's gold, you'll follow the gods. And it's interesting how they're both spelt gods and golds. So we'll get into that. If you want to go into the high end stuff, you're like, wow, because you'll blow your mind what's really going on. But that's for more advanced. But people got to get the, you know, my students, I try and get them into shape and understand how to meditate. Meditate slows the mind down and also gets them tuned into their own strength through their, not just their soul. We separate the soul and the spirit. Soul is more to the liquid aspect or the astral planes, whereas the spirit is to the fire, the infinite spark, like a sun. And it's an antibody, or it's an antimatter, as it were. It's what you think it is everything that and nothing. It's the opposite of. It's like finding out there's black holes and then you understand that you're a white hole, and that sounds like some, you know, made up stuff, but it's not. You're literally on the pathway to understand that you're this multidimensional being, and you understand black and white holes because they bend light like a chakra, you know, or a sun. You know what I mean? So if you looked at, oh God, no, I'll be getting too far out with that, you know, exploded stars and neutron suns and things. But if we get back to, let's have a look at what people chase. Okay, so we place a value on certain stones, and the stones have got a lot to do with really helping us. Okay, crystalline structures. So silicon quartz, for example, I got one here. It's just one I prepared earlier. All right, I'll look at that. It's hexagonal. It has 6 sides. All right, 6 sides. Yeah, natural. All right, this is a master, by the way. It's a smoky, but that's just quartz. Ruby grows with 6 sides. So does sapphire. So does beryllium emerald as well. It's 6-sided. And the old computers, if you look at the master chip in the middle, it's 6-sided, like a hexagon. You know, so that's why it's Star of David. Blah blah blah. You can get into macabre meditations and all. The 6. So if you look at that, crystalline structures, intelligence, okay, 6, and crystals grow, I know, in our earth as well, but it's a natural form. For example, if you looked at ice on a window pane, it grows, the crystals grow, or in a free, it grows. It's intelligent. It's crystal. It gets to a point, you understand the Christ consciousness is, it's crystalline. It's Christ is crystal.
Yeah.
You know, once you get it, you get it. That's mine. I should patent that. Actually, I will. I don't care. I'm on this planet. I'm rich in knowledge. That's for sure. So yeah, exactly. Think and Grow Rich. That's a brilliant book. So think and grow rich, clear thought. Whereas if you're running a program or watching the lame stream or you're distracted, all your energy's going. Whereas you've got clear thought, any marketing guru or any person that motivational or spiritual mentor, whatever system they work with, it's the power of thought. Okay, you can overcome great things. So, and also you can use batteries and amplifiers. For example, we're using lithium ion. Once again, it's a combination of minerals. Before that, we had metal hydride, nickel cadmium. Cadmium. They're elements. It's not like it's something magic. Well, it is when you put them together. They create a magic battery, so it runs things. I mean, the old battery's lead. So once again, we're just talking about metals and stones. That's all it is. And we've got them all in our bodies anyway. It's phenomenal what we can do. And as I say, if you look at your calcium, you're running the periodic table through you, but we break it down into 5, like the 5-point star in your east, or you can do the 4-point star in the west, fire, earth, water, and ether, etheric energy being the 5th element, or metals in the Eastern philosophies. So they have fire, earth, wood, water, and metal. Okay, metals intelligence. So your high-end phones, for example, they don't run copper wiring through these, okay, because it'll just cook it. So you move up to silvers, golds, and then of course you move into the platinum group metals. That's why the platinum group metals are quite expensive. Platinum's not worth that much, but there's other platinum group metals that are worth a lot of money. People think golds, and there's palladium. You should see the properties of that. It blow your friggin' mind. They're superconductors. That's Lawrence Gardner's brilliant book, Lost Secrets of the Sacred Ark, Masonic secrets and things like this. Blow your mind. Once again, as I say, it's just all metals and stones, the combination. I mean, the original record players, it's a diamond stylus picking up sound of a vinyl record. It's not like the electricity's doing. Electricity's just running it. You don't need much power, but the diamond is intelligence. Hence why I suppose they're so expensive. Or maybe that's De Beers, Holden and whatever. South Africa. Oh my gosh. Well, let's not get into all that. So once again, there's different ways of looking at the platonic solids and the elemental charts as well, the periodic tables. So you're looking at everything in nature is intelligence and has to be there for a reason. This planet is phenomenal. The absolute massiveness of life forms and diversities, and that's only a fraction of our lifetime, what we're seeing. A lot of it's been hidden in the past, but we've had just about every kind of species of animals you can imagine. And a lot have been written off out of history because of certain power brokers and whatever. But the thing is, anything you can imagine that's been on this planet exists on this planet. And if it doesn't, it's called what we call ghosting. It exists in the astral planes or other elemental planes of fire, earth, air, and water, as it were. So elemental beings, like if you're in your garden, you would be able to empath with your flowers and also your food that you grow. It's a living conscious being. Obviously the books, the Ringing Cedars, many other books have been written about this sort of stuff too. That you can empath with every single living creature you can work with, except some people just don't get it. Oh my goodness! Some people are my dear oh me, because they're running a program. If they're just running a simple it's like your computer, you just run certain programs or certain apps. It's an application. So that's exactly what we do with shapes like the platonic solids, or we use symbols of each of the zodiac signs or symbols of each of the planets. It's just like a shortcut on your desktop or an app off your phone. You hit it, bang, access instantly. For example, the symbol for Jupiter, the symbol for Mercury. once you understand that, it's only made with 3 symbols, all the planetary shapes, and they're made with 3 symbols. It's the crescent, the circle, and the cross. That's it. And just move the cross around, you know, like, for example, Mars or, you know, Mercury or, you know, there's some brilliant stuff. It's just, symbology is very, very important too. And particularly the people that run massive corporations. It's not that they need to know it, but their marketing or their all the symbology used in all the big corporations, everything from automotive manufacturers to, you know, oil companies or pharmaceutical, the way they do their logos, it's all done with the golden mean, sacred geometry. It works that way. You know, there's shapes that people are attracted to. And when you understand how shape attracts the mind or the eyes, it's very, very powerful. It's magnetic. That's brilliant. Yeah, so once again, I love teaching this sort of thing. It's what I dig the most. Yeah.
So are you doing this on Zoom or you're like in person? And
yes, I'm just setting up again off this website. I've got a new website just launched now, thanks to Raz and Samio and all the people that have assisted me here. So it's about to kick off again. I want to do Zooms. I'm just putting up now, just populating all the different courses. I do local courses. The Theosophical Society here in Brisbane want me to do one on the 23rd. So if you go to michaelsalchemy.com, you follow the link, and I'll be speaking at the Theosophical Society as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for those beautiful images too, Jeffrey. They're great. They're wonderful. And also I'm doing one, it's a private one at the Infinite Connection with obviously Cameron and Liza down there at their new place at Beachmont. I do the stars there. I teach the stars. I show people the maps, you know, rather than like the astronomy maps, they look like stick figures, whereas the cosmology map, Thomas Folsinger's map, it's beautiful. The man was a genius, or still is a genius rather, and that map's a very good way to show the constellations in the sky. You see the look at the constellation, and then you look at it in the sky, and it all starts to make sense. You know, for example, you know, why Scorpio looks the way it is, or Orion, you know, the Southern Cross. You know, you can start to map it out. You get to see, you know, Gemini, you know, Aries, Taurus, you know, Leo, all the constellations, you can point them out. And once you start to do that, you know, you're mapping the stars, it all makes sense. And I like that because, you know, I'm into understanding and the weather, understanding, you know, weather and star systems. And, you know, understanding stars is something that I'm very much interested in. The fact that I'm, you know, a star navigator, as it were, you know, that's one of the things that, and, you know, weather law, weather magic, as my old teacher used to say. I wrote it down about 35 years ago. Said, weather magic, the law was lost, but it's still available. So, okay, I'm going to find out about this weather magic. So a lot of the shaman of the South Americas and North Americas understand weather magic. It was also in the Celtic. It's all over the world, but only the chosen or the select few knew how to work with it. So it's all about timing and harmony, you know, with atmospheric conditions. So stars, the same thing too, because if you start mapping the stars, a lot more knowledge becomes available to you, rather than just like, you know, we're not these physical pieces of protoplasm. You understand that these stars are named a certain way because of very, very ancient star beings or star races. And I know a lot of, you know, mainstream science wanted to change it to numerical numbers and things, but Orion's going to still be Orion, Canis Major is going to be Canis Major, and Sirius. You know, these stars go back a long, long way. Alpha Centauri, they're named that for a very, very special reason. And I don't care what people think about me. You know, I've been around too long to sort of worry about that. But the way they do it, you'd be blown out how many star maps are actually on this planet. And then obviously, yeah, absolutely. It's not by accident, you know, that there was a lot of work written, not just by Graham Hancock, but also Weston did all that work on the pyramids and the Sphinx as well. He found out it wasn't just, you know, 2,000 or 3,000 BC. We went right back 10,000 BC. You know, it was the time of Leo, because those pyramids were mapped out to the belt of Orion. You know, you're actually talking meter to the light year. I mean, that's just not technology of this earth. It just isn't. You know, it's not like. And what do you like? 13 acres, you know, the Great Pyramid's mapped over 13 acres. And it's also the Great Pyramid of the Sun in Mexico, same base. You know, it's just phenomenal. So they mapped this out. They also had casing stones, white casing stones. That, once again, that was found out. It wasn't a myth. It was actually real. It was written out in the ancient texts, and also History of the Jews by Josephus, and also Herodotus, and many of the other great philosophers. Yes, absolutely. If you held that image there, Jeffrey, yeah, there's four chambers that go into the Great Pyramid, and each of them line up to certain stars on certain dates, like in the King's Chamber and the Queen's Chamber. All right, so I can name the stars, and they were found by Rudolf Ganderbrink. It was. He sent that robot up those shafts, and he found out, and those shafts lined up to the stars, and like they built that into the pyramids. I mean, 6 million blocks. I mean, I work in engineering. You know, like how did they do that? And also the orientation of that Great Pyramid. You know, I'm saving this for Jeffrey's stuff at the end. It's like the top of the Great Pyramid of Giza. It's basically halfway between the highest mountains in the Himalayas and also the lowest swamps in the Floridas, you know, in the Florida marshes. So it's balanced between both, and also it's on the longest lay north-south and the longest lay east-west as well. So they're obviously used in some ways. I mean, Zachariah Sitchin wrote about them, you know, how the ships could come in from you know, the Rigel systems and things like that, and they had something to sort of work for because they were after the gold. You know, they were going ballistic on this gold. But the Egyptian pyramids, okay, mapped out to the star system or the constellation Orion. You know, may the gods strike me down if I'm lying, because that's the truth. And it's actually, we're finding them across the planet as well. They're in Mexico, and when you look at them, like actually on a grid system, they look like a power board, you know, like yeah, like in the old computer, look like the controller card or the video card or the sound card when you sort of see it, the way they map it out. Anyway, plenty of pictures and eye candy for that I put together in the courses. Yeah, it's phenomenal. And also the engineering feat, it's like that whole base, that pyramid, it's not even out by half an inch. That's like 12 and a half millimeters. Yeah, over 13 acres. It's phenomenal. It's like something that an optician would get with a lens. And we're finding these pyramids all over the world. They're in Indonesia, you know, like Borobudur. You have them in Samaria, you know, Mesopotamia, which is obviously Iran and Iraq. Really interesting names too, by the way. You have them in Chichen Itza, all through South America. They're finding them in China, blah, blah, blah. To build it the way they say, they had these engineering companies. I saw a lot of docos on this. And for them to build the pyramids the way they say, I mean, the ramp would be 5 kilometers long, you know. And they show you these pictures of these slaves building them, rolling them up, logs. And they're the healthiest looking slaves I've ever seen, you know. So, what? You know, it just doesn't make sense. Whereas if you got to loop it back, have a look at the stuff that was going on at the turn of this century. And it was particularly a lot of Tesla's work, you know, that free energy work. When you start getting into that, well, there are obviously power brokers that don't want that kind of knowledge to come out. But you know, most of the sacred sites are usually built with granite or sandstone or limestone. And I'm talking everything from the cathedrals to, you know, Stonehenge to, you know, Baalbek and whatever. So what's the mineral content of these stones? I mean, so Baalbek has got a lintel there. It's 1,200 tons. I work with massive cranes. I work with them. It's like, how do you move that? It doesn't make sense the way they say they're put together, you know. So we're finding things out. So stones are intelligent. So you can run lasers, you can play music, you can create audio, sound, and frequency with crystal bowls, metal bowls, whatever. Okay, strings, vibrations, and things. Shape's important. Stratocaster guitar, Fender Strat or a Gibson or uh, a Stradivarius violin or a Steinway piano. That shape of the timbre has a timbre. So you virtually put it down, it's still vibrating. So if you understand how vibration works, that's how you can communicate, with stone and timber. And the stone and timber creates back with us, as it were. We're made of the same minerals. So yeah, it begs to differ. That's just a teaser, Jeffrey. We're getting to this bit. We'll get back, mate. We'll get back there.
It's all right. So good.
Right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the belt of Orion. Yes.
Jeffrey, did you want to talk about any other things apart
Before
from
we get back to the elementals, we'll get back to the elementals.
Yeah.
So the role and purpose of those platonic solids, particularly the pyramids. I mean,
Yes.
when we start looking at all the different shapes, like for example, the Eskimos and their igloos to the Mongolians and their yurts to
Yes,
American Red Indians with their conical teepees.
that's right.
To the Western man to a square and rectangle. Pyramid seems to be a foremost function all around the planet, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Actually, there was a lot of research that came out in the 90s and 2000s from all places, the Russians. Oh gosh, Gary, I can't remember all the knowledge that was coming out, but they found out, they did studies, all right, that where pyramids grow, it deflects a lot of negative energy. It actually makes oil better. It deflects storms and earthquakes. Now, there's whole books and volumes. This isn't just fantasy. This is actually written and put together by a lot of the scientists. Once, perestroika glasnost happened, the Iron Curtain fell down. They had a lot of scientists in Russia who was doing this research. Some of them have been obviously, imprisoned in that, by Stalin, way back in the 50s and that, but others continued this research. And what pyramids do is absolutely phenomenal. They attract a lot of right energy and light energy. It's just volumes of knowledge contained in that shape. Now you have different types of pyramids. Obviously we'll try and get to that. In this interview this evening, and it depends on the angle. I believe it'd be good to have my PowerPoint here. I could just sort of show you the angle on the Great Pyramid, for example, is 51 degrees. It's actually a decimal fraction of that, but that particular angle, it almost like it refracts light. It creates almost like the rainbow effect. I think it's around the 51, 52 degrees. If you get that angle, it creates light, for example. And also with your step pyramids, the number of steps is really important because it creates like a capacitor. They're fantastic, or giant capacitors and transmitters of energy. You also have the Bosnian pyramids and things. See, some of the pyramids are actual just natural mountains. Yeah, the stats. Look at the stats on that. It looks like a capacitor or like a battery source. Now, there's a lot of research that was done. I think it was back in the 60s. I think the US Air Force was looking. They were trying to track natural electromagnetic anomalies. On this planet, we have a lot of interesting places where we have massive, electromagnetic storms or time storms. Say, for example, the Bermuda Triangle or the Devil's Triangle. Also, they were finding out that a lot of these round towers, like your Irish round towers, you get them in Ireland and all through Great Britain, all over Europe, particularly in northern Italy and Austria. These round towers actually are creating this incredible or phenomenal. It's not just electromagnetic, but it creates a higher frequency of electromagnetic spectrum. Hence, a lot of the fruits and the vegetables and things that were grown were doubling in size, tripling in size, and tripling in nutrition as well. So that's why part of the pyramid technology, it creates damn good vibes. That's just one aspect, and this is scientifically proven. I've got a stack of books, I'd recommend, but I don't know if we can get into that in the course of this evening. Also, as I say, the US are trying to pick up on, with their Air Force, so trying to find all the, yes, exactly, they're well spotted, yes. These phenomenal anomalies. Yeah, it's phenomenal, like beams of light, like it's attracted. It's a natural attractor. The Master Masons did it with a lot of the cities. Is a really good a YouTube video you should see, hidden in plain sight. It goes about 3.5 hours. Like all the major cities, well, not all the major cities, but a lot of them are mapped out with, the hex or the tree of life, or, the pyramid shapes or triangular shapes. Because they're a natural attractor, because light and energy attracts to what? The simplest shapes, like the platonic solids, as it were. It grows. I mean, look here. This is a fluorite. It grows in an octahedron, like a pyramid, back to back. It's not like a shape that's it naturally grows. It's dozens of them. I love these things. Wow, look at that. It's a shape, because it's the way things reflect in nature, from the cosmos to the microcosm. It is. Here's a bigger one. This is just one. Now, not all, but I'd say the majority of all these things map out to these shapes. There's some brilliant lecturers on those. All right, it's a sample. It's intelligent design. Pyrite is cubo-octahedron. This is, I remember I got this when I was younger, not this particular specimen, but look, it grows in shape. Wow. There's no straight, it's not supposed to be straight lines in nature. Well, there is, all right? There are straight lines, because exactly, they grow to crystalline structure, because crystalline structure is intelligent. So if you looked at every ice crystal or snow, they're all different and they're all unique. It's like where gold and silver, they grow like trees and branches. Now, obviously, they get broken up alluvially, when they roll down into the rivers and so on and so forth. But they grow to structure, as it were, intelligent structure. I mean, you see a lot of stuff that's just sort of broken up and randomized. But if you actually looked at it in its true crystalline form, it will reflect things. It's the same with plants in nature. For example, most of your flowers, 5-point star, 5-point, from a frangipani to a hibiscus, for example, it's 5-point geometry, because it's showing you the fifth the way through, 4, then 5, 4, then 5, 5 is the fifth element. Even the number 5, the way that letter or that numeric aspect is, the shape of all those letters, it's like people think they were invented on this planet. They're universal. They're a universal symbol. You can communicate with half a dozen ETs from different places, and you put that symbol, that they get it. It's called in masonry, squaring the circle with 5. I'd love to show you on a board, but I'll do a proper demonstration with that. Yeah, look, 5 is the number. It's the transitional number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is your microcosm going into your macrocosm. Anyway, you can see that in tarot and whatever you want to look at. But what I'm trying to say with the crystalline structure, the 5 platonic solids, it's like if you centered them in the torus field. Have I got my little toys here? No, I didn't bring them. A toroidal field is a 4-dimensional, and it nests or births these solids. Okay, there are shapes that are naturally grown and they're worshipped, or worshipped by different cultures as well, like the cube. Okay, the Kaaba that Islam, it's a black cube. All right, it's a black cube. That's what's at Mecca. That's what's it's a black cube. Why would you do that? Well, it has 12 edges. Here we go. Here's the 12 again. The air element is what I was showing you before with the octahedron. All right. The cube relates to earth element. The octahedron, has 8 sides to the air. Fires to the tetrahedron. I'll explain that a little bit later, and that's a key to lasers and how light works when you invert it itself. It's what's called the Macabre meditation. Macabre is a 3-dimensional Star of David. Okay, see that when you look at the basic aspects of alchemy, you'll see the shapes like triangle, square, 5-point star, 6-point star. They're in 2D, like a circle. But when you go to 3D, like you move circle into sphere, then you move to the Platonic solids, the triangle becomes the tetrahedron. Tetra just means four. Tetra means four. Hedron means faces. So tetra, four faces. So it's a four-faced triangle. The Earth is obviously the cube, or what we call the hexahedron, because that's six faces. And if you look at a cube, like for example, I've got one here. Don't move, don't break any action. Oh my gosh, I'll look at it. I'll just use the small ones. I got them here. All right. Okay.
Yeah, I bet they're small.
Yeah, not as big as yours. Okay. You look at them. There's just whole courses on this to do. What you could learn about this in these infinite shapes. This shape, okay, the cube, all right, it's six. Most people are in the box, okay. When you get outside the box, you get outside the cube. It has 6 faces and 12 edges, like the dice, okay, like you're rolling luck, okay. So all your dices in the world are based on that. So a lot of your gambling's done on that as well. So that's the earth element. So your constellations obviously are Capricorn, Virgo, and Taurus. More on that later, because otherwise I'm just going to blow people's minds as usual, you know. So a tetrahedron, okay, it's different to the pyramids. We'll get to the pyramids. This is a tetrahedron. It's a 4-face. Okay, it has 4 triangular faces to fire. So it's obviously to Aries, Leo, and of course Sagittarius. And the energy associated with that, I'll tell you more about later, but that's the fire element. But once again, you need to understand what you're looking at first, but we'll get to it. With water, you have what's called the icosahedron. If you can understand this, you can understand the Bermuda Triangle. I'm not kidding, how it works. And also all the ley lines on the planet, okay? The icosahedron and its inversion, the dodecahedron. So icosa is 20, okay, in the old Macedonian Greek. Okay, icosa is 20-sided, okay, and dodeca is the spirit. Okay, it's 12. It's a 3-dimensional pentagram or 3-dimensional 5-point star. With this, you put them together. There's a map called the Becker-Hagen's map. And with that, you see where all the ley lines are. We have powerful vortexes. And it's not like that's made up. Like the Bermuda Triangle, there's probably over 3,000 people have disappeared through there. That's just up to about 2012. The amount of ships, aircraft, and I'm not just talking commercial, we're talking military aircraft, you know. And there's 12 of these vortexes on the planet. 12. One in Antarctica, one in the Arctic. Okay, Arctic, Antarctic, then you have Bermuda Triangle, Devil's Triangle, and there's another 8 as well. But we'll get in more of that later. Once again, if you want to get into electromagnetics and time storms and, you know, time travel and all that, you know, you can track back down to the Philadelphia experiment and things like that. But if you want to get back to the simple things like in nature, like plants, okay, they still form geometry. And understanding the Fibonacci sequence, you'll see that in a sunflower, so in geometry. But once again, my friend Jane 108, he teaches a lot of that. He does brilliant courses on that. He's been getting me to sort of, you know, Michael, get out and do this stuff. You're really going to do it. So once again, that was a crash course in the Platonic solids. And I'm just trying to jump, you know, I'm hyper jumping or quantum jumping through realms very, very quickly. But those crystalline structures, the Platonic solids is like nested in the toroidal field. It's like the torus nests it. So a torus is a 4-dimensional sphere. It's like if we moved our planet around the sun and it left like a track, okay? It's a toroidal field, the torus. It's like a donut, basically. It's a donut shape. And with that, our planet has the same. You have a north pole and a south pole. It creates electromagnetics that way. Hence you have the northern lights, you know, aurora borealis, because they're magnetic storms. And also in the Arctic, we have the aurora australis, I think it is. Yeah, corona australis, aurora australis. So they're magnetic light fields and frequencies that you're seeing. It's the same shape as an apple. You know why, you know, so many monks and that look at an apple, because it's not just a sphere. It has like a stem and a base, okay? So it has a top and a bottom. It's the same as like the way a baby's born. These are shapes, once you understand them, it's the keys to everything. Yes, well spotted, electromagnetic field of the heart. So if your heart's open, you're creating a toroidal field, not just like a circle or a sphere. You're creating a four-dimensional sphere that breathes. And right at the heart, you virtually create the 5 platonic solids in shape, as it were, or you can relate them to different chakra systems, or the 5 vowels, or whichever way the language of light is, it's built into us, it's encoded, whichever way you want to stack it. Like, you can crack all the grids, even where, if you looked at where Stonehenge or Avery is on the planet, or you went to the pyramids of the South Americas, they will be at one stage lined up to certain star systems, and also what we call ley lines, or different cultures call them different things. I mean, I think they're called song lines in Australia. They're called fairy lines in Ireland. Holy lines in Germany. The lines of Hermes in Greece. They call them dragon lines. Long Mei in China, and different Cantonese language. Where do you want to go on the planet? They've got a name for it. All right, these magnetic lines. And obviously, if you're into dowsing, I mean, some of the toughest skeptics I know are farmers, but they still dowse. They use old dowse because they can find water and things like that. So you've got natural springs. Once you understand that, you can get beyond, our surface Earth. You can understand hollow Earth, and there's these massive cavern systems, and it's brilliant. As within, so without.
Inner Earth, because they say the Bermuda Triangle, and all of them have disappeared into inner Earth.
Yeah, some people say inner. Well, it depends, because it depends what time you hit it. I digress. To get into time frequencies, you understand. People think, oh, time's a mental concept. No, it's not. Okay, because if you understand how anti-gravity works, time is it works together. It's like, no, time's a mental construct. No, it's well, stop aging. Stop aging. If it's a mental construct. So time measures the soul, and time is connected to space and gravity. When you understand that formula, and you're going to get back into the high end dudes here, and you're going to go through what we call paradox storms. Same as it ever was. So it's unreal to understand the time matrices. This is absolutely brilliant. It's just the law of genius. That's how you get across. You don't get across the galaxies, using rockets. That's just ridiculous. It's just fossil fuel. You move through. It's unreal. I'll get to it. Okay, I'll get into time storms, or time dimensions, or distortions of time. Time, once again, what they used, exactly. It's a torus field, and it interconnects with another toroidal field. It's like two donuts interlocking, but it's a massive matrix of electromagnetics, as well as all your elemental planes. So what it actually happens, and this is what the Mayan we're doing in the Mayan calendar. The Mayan calendar is quite a complex thing, unless you know what they're really doing with it. It's very advanced astrology, astronomy, because they use a 2013 calendar, so it gives you 260, because they work it more to the moon, and their system tracks all the planets and time vortexes, or opening of portals. This planet's full of portals. There's wormholes and stargates, but once again, it sounds like science fantasy. Well, why not? Because science fiction's got more truth than all the news in the world at the moment. And if you spell fiction, if you understand Kabbalah, you remove the F, you put PH in. You need to put PH in because it balances things. If only people understood what those letters mean. If you understand the words, you understand the worlds. You can create worlds with words. Everyone thinks, the English is a bastardized language. Well, it's the most popular, at the moment on the planet with a lot of things. You got to understand what the letters mean. Understand the letters, because each one of those sounds, like from A through to Z, the alpha omega, that shape creates a sound frequency in the akashic, mental, astral, and physical plane. Okay, so if you understand that, once again, the spiral energy, see the spiral spirit, or spirit is spiral with the T. You see that T you put on the end of something, a T, electric use it. It's a T. It earths it. So we're like earthed out spirit spiral beings. So every storm matrix, from tornadoes to hurricanes to typhoons, whatever, they all work to spiral. So as you go over the equator, they go, I think it's clockwise, and when you go over in the South Pole or the Southern Hemisphere, it goes anti-clockwise. So you understand that, clockwise, anti-clockwise, and that's how you marry things up. But I'd love to do. I have got courses on this. I have Inner Earth as well, so you can go into Inner Earth, but it's just a huge area. I actually do a presentation on it. A brilliant man by the name of Bill Donovan, he was an astrophysicist, gave me this knowledge. He said, look, you should be doing this because you can explain it better than any scientist. So I'm sure scientists can explain it better, but, it doesn't get out of the universe. It sort of gets capped. But, being the physicist, the chemist, the biochemist, if you understand spiral, spin, it's like how water recalibrates itself in nature. You go into nature and you hear the sound of water. It's very, very calming because it recalibrates itself. So, there's spins and currents in the air. It's atmosphere. All right. So therefore, you're understanding weather and law, because weather, they were starting to manipulate weather back in the 60s. It was, during the American Vietnam War. They were starting to work out how to seed storms, as it were, and keep them going. Obviously, they've got HARP now, which is obviously a Tesla. Obviously didn't want that for the wrong reasons, but anyway, they've got that. That kind of technology with weather. Once again, it's understanding spin and atomosphere or atmosphere. So as above, so below. So everything you see on the surface exists on the inside as well, which I was trying to say before. So Hollow Earth is a really big kettle of ballparks and fish. I don't care how I talk. I do a presentation on it, but how far down you want to go, because Inner Earth is massive. Robert Ceff is doing some brilliant work on that too. Check him out. I can't even get near the amount of videos that guy's been putting out on that sort of work, and it's reported in just about every culture about the Inner Earth. You can go to the Hopi, they talk about the ant people and Inner Earth dragons. We'll get into dragons. I'll do a presentation on dragons. It's just infinite, man. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Well, the dinosaurs and the dragons. The word dinosaur has only been around about 150, 160 years. And you know what it means? Big, terrible lizard, big lizard, terrible lizard. But before that, you know what the word was? Dragons. And they're in every culture on the planet. You go anywhere you want, they'll have dragons. And it's like kids. And when you look at the skulls of a dinosaur, it's the same thing. Oh, it's that. It's a triceratops. Well, kids still love dragons.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. It's in the Chinese zodiac too. It's the only supposed to be phantasmic, figure. They have all the animal system there for, obviously, rat, ox, monkey, and tiger. But the dragon, it's this creature. It's like, oh my gosh, let's have a look at that too. But I can explain Loch Ness and all these things too if you want to get into that. But that's another 3,000 months of work if you wanted to.
Yeah. Oh no,
You're going to have another couple of cycles to incarnate.
Yeah. Well, this is what Jeff did say. You'd have to do a show every week. So
yes, let's do that. I'll get more structure. I'm sort of obviously hyper jumping because it's no big deal for me. I should explain to the audience, hey everyone, I talk really, really fast and I tap lots of things. It's like schizophrenia on steroids, but I'm having a good time and I'm not letting anyone. So,
I must admit, when I spoke to you,
schizophrenia, that's an understatement.
when I spoke to you the last couple of times, you were really fast, but you're not so fast this time because I thought a lot of the listeners won't be able to keep up with you over here.
Yeah, look, obviously it's meant to be coming through at the speed it's coming through. This is me slowed down. This is me after a tiring day, so it's not.
What's the best time to get you then?
Oh yeah, I'm a bit more mellow, exactly. I need my sleep. It's unreal because like when you're in the dream states, you're actually awake in other planes and dimensions. So you've just got to understand. There's an adverse thing. Once again, you get it with the torus. When you understand how the torus works, you understand that time is space, and space is time. And that's what happens in the dream states, or if you've passed over, you know, you're held in certain levels. It's quite complex and very, very organized. But you know, your soul travel, your soul journey. So waking up in the other planes is like you're waking up in another time space or a parallel universe. The trick is to realize you've woken up over there.
Yeah,
That's,
yeah.
and directions mean a lot too, right? It's all about the sun and centering. Wait till we get into Hollow Earth. That's fantastic. You know, you'll never be bored again. And I'm going to be quoting what other, you know, scientists in that have done. Yeah, it is. It's
What was
a
that guy
Gartner.
that we listened to? He was about 1,500 years old, and he'd come through. I can't.
Oh yeah.
Zonkin or
Oh yeah.
Zelkin. I can't remember, but anyway, he used to do a Hollow Earth, and he would come with information, and his son was like 1,800 years old, and they'd be giving you all this. I can't remember the names now, but it was yeah, that was really interesting.
Telos. It was Telos under Shasta. There's big, powerful vibrational mountains that have that energy. They're like the keepers, and you have sacred tribes that guard those mountains. I'm probably not really allowed to reveal that. I try and respect a lot of the indigenous, you know, covenants as much as possible. Mount Shasta has a system out in Australia called Mount Wollumben. You know, yeah, the cloud catcher, and also southern France, you have Bucharest as well. You have massive amounts of ET activity. They tried to sort of go down deeper in Bucharest and find out as far. I think they got down about 6 kilometers into these tunnel systems, couldn't go any further. Then
that's another subject, the tunnels, eh?
Yeah, well, exactly. And also, when you move into different frequencies or time space, even if you go back thousands of years, people think everything's the same, but no, they're breathing differently, or there's different aspects to energy, as it were. Same as when you're in a different plane or dimension, you don't age. So if you're in the fairy realm, let's say like an elfin realm, or you know, a gnomish realm. I know it all sounds like fairy tales, but fairy tales have lasted a lot longer than the 6 o'clock news anyway. So a lot more truth in them too. As I say, well, it's Alice in Wonderland, that sort of thing. It makes sense. That's why you're attracted to it as a child, and also, you know, you're going through the looking glass. So you're moving through time and space. You're projecting your consciousness. So what is consciousness? Which is ultimately what, you know, one would challenge themselves constantly on this pathway. What is consciousness? So you look at consciousness. We're all conscious now. We're talking. Okay. So you have consciousness, and then you have subconscious, which you would probably call your soul. Okay. Then you could call your spirit super consciousness, okay, which is connected to all aspects of all life at all times. But if your spirit was to incarnate straight away, like without a physical mental body, you have what's called spontaneous combustion. You realize it's about 2,000 degrees to burn a physical body, and these things happen. And a lot of that happens in countries all over the world, dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of cases across India and Southern Asia, where and it's like the spirit leaves the body like a sun. It just burns it up, just burns straight through it. You know, it's because it's not meant to be there anymore. You know, it's like, oh, okay, you shouldn't be here on this planet anymore. You're supposed to be over here. So, you know, time to reincarnate. So understanding spirit is like sun or energy being or star being. You're working with something that's an intelligence paradox, but we've sort of got to take it in small stages, bite-sized chunks in the physical and the mental planes, as it were, if that makes sense. Yeah. That's starting to make sense. So whatever realm. So if you, once again, getting back to the fairy realm, if you're in the fairy realm, and this has been documented all through Europe and, you know, Asia and Ireland and all over the world, people have gone into a fairy ring and they've disappeared, and they've come back hundreds of years later. You know, no one else is around, because when you go into another sphere or dimension, time and space is altered. You know, it's different. You know, it doesn't work that way. And how do you access these? But when you have ley lines, or these magnetic lines of force operating at certain times, or a planetary lineup, it amplifies that energy. Like, you know, obviously the moon is an amplifier of energy, you know, dragging the tides in and out. Every time you have a full moon, I'm sure many of the police officers and the nurses and the doctors could tell you have a lot more activity happening on the planet, you know, with people losing their mind, as it were, because you have a lot more magnetism or a lot more liquid energy happening. So this is what happens on ley lines as well. You have a lot more activity. So it creates vortexes, you know, like how birds move up, like through thermals, you know, like they're spiraling. They're invisible lines of force. But when you understand it, you see pelican, anything, you know, it moves in a spiral shape. So this is what actually happens with magnetism and electric energy. And it also happens with time, because it's still subject to these laws. And this is what, you know, greats like Tesla and Victor Schauberger and, you know, dozens and dozens and dozens of others had worked out. But it just doesn't get consumed by the mainstream, because they'd rather, you know, tell you about, I don't know, which celebrity got drunk or, you know, exposed or doesn't agree with their agenda. Sort of
Went
thing.
to a party.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm still vomiting from it. Yes.
Yeah.
Mainstream.
And I think I shared with you talking about the birds. Like when I first moved down here to Dorset, on when I was parking the car, and all the birds were coming over, and I thought, "Wow, this is my welcoming committee. This is amazing."
Alfred Hitchcock. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's
And then it was, of course, the starlings come over here and doing their bit. Like, so I get a nightly show now. But
Lucky you.
yeah, I love it.
Yeah, we have them here too. We have like dozens of lorikeets, and we also have the interactions between, you know, there's the butcher birds and the magpies and the peewees, and they're awesome. I love when magpies talk here. They sound like R2D2, or, you know, like ET's communicating. They do that warble. It's like, wow, what are you saying? Exactly. Give me some cheese or something.
I recorded a butcher bird in Australia. What was that? 2010, 11? I can't remember now.
Yes.
And we put it on YouTube. And the bird we used to have a lot of birds come along, and I was in the kitchen and I could hear him out there singing, so I thought I'd record him. So I went out and and he sang and he sang. I've forgotten how long it was for, about 6 minutes.
no,
And he,
longer than that, 28 minutes.
was it 13? Anyway, he went on and he went through all
No, that's a
different
whole album. Yeah.
tones and frequencies. And so anyway, it's on YouTube now, and I think it's on 90-odd thousand views. This little bird is singing all around the world.
Oh, wow. Getting it out.
Yeah,
I have,
I'll send you the link. But
butcher
amazing.
birds outside my window. Yeah, they wake up in the morning right when my alarm is 444. They wake up and they do this song. I know it sounds like I made that up, but that's what happens. So life is crazier than you could possibly imagine. It's absolutely brilliant. And once again, the avian kingdom is huge in the cultures around the world. The connection with birds and just about every single tribe and philosophy is absolutely gargantuan. You know, I mean, the eagle. I mean, how many symbols, how many flags, how many crests, how many emblems have the eagle, the lion, you know, the lion. We have all the different animals and such, but the avian kingdom is quite huge, you know. And then the rebirth of the phoenix. You know, you have infinite knowledge. As I say, there's a book out there, Return of the Bird Tribes, as well. As I said, you can go to North America, South America. You can go to the Celts, you know, whatever, they put the feather in the cap and, you know, the headdresses. You go to New Guinea, anywhere in the world. I couldn't even name all the places how important, you know, bird headdress and adornment is. It's powerful. So the avian kingdom is, you know, definitely alive and well, and it goes right back to the ancient cultures. They do have that connection with the birds, and you know, depends which culture. I mean, in Atlantean and Egyptian, you have Thoth, you know, the ibis-headed god, you know, and once again, you have the falcon-headed Horus. That is huge, so much. Sacred bird of Kronos, you know, the father of the Titans, you know, or the king of the Titans, you know, the father of the new gods. The sacred bird is the crow, you know. Crow is very sacred in the Americas as well. I just can't even cover all the cultures and whatever bird kingdom. But the bird tribe is very, very strong. That avian, it's part of the Kundalini process. So I will do that course very, very soon. If people want to do it, please sign up. My name is Michael Lamb. You can get me at michaelsalchemy.com or email me at michaelsalchemy@gmail.com. And we'll put I've got the courses there. Just haven't sort of activated. I used to drag all the gear around and everything and talk about this stuff. I've been doing it a long time. And yeah, when you start to talk about it, it's the key to the Kundalini, because you have all the two dragons, or the bird and the serpent, as it were, as they dance, the crisscrosses. That's the key to the caduceus. So it can answer a lot. And once again, you don't have to believe a word I say, but once you start to see what symbols mean and how powerful they are in cultures across the world, you get to understand you become infinite in your consciousness, and therefore you chase and you find the philosopher's stone, which is, of course, immortality. Okay, you get to survive death, as it were, which is what is being said in a lot of the papyruses that A.E. Budge and so many of the others did. So, yeah, you don't believe a word I say to you, prove it to yourself. I'm just here for the good times and the non-stop classic rock hits of the 70s, 80s, 90s, and the noughties.
Yes. Somebody put a message up. I saw it quickly saying about the crickets that sing like angels, and I meant to say to Jeff, put that on. And you've obviously heard that where they sing like a choir of angels. Absolutely phenomenal. That's
yes.
And I remember going to a talk in Bath with my sister years ago, and I can't remember the guy's name, but he talked about. He played the bird song, and then he slowed it down, and it was the whales, and then he played the whales and speeded it up, and it was the birds. It was just amazing,
Wow, that blows my mind. Yet, you think you're always learning. That's phenomenal.
Yeah,
that is absolutely brilliant, because, as I say, that's what I say about the time and space aspect. Well, we have time here becomes inverse, it becomes space over in the dream or the parallel realms when we pass over, and vice versa. So, yeah, I've always been intrigued by time and that matrix and space. And space is supposed to be emptiness, nothingness, but that's not right. It's full of living bacteria. It has consciousness and ether.
Yeah, no,
it's
amazing.
I caught on this Netflix show several weeks ago, and it was a Sunday night, and I watched about 5 episodes. Before you know it, it was 2:00 in the morning. You know how you sort of think, oh, do I stay and watch another one? I thought, no, I got to go to work next morning. So come Monday, I got up early and I watched one, and then in the afternoon, evening, I watched another 6, and I thought, should I watch 12 of these episodes? It's only one season. So I jumped on and I found there was 63 shows. That's with actors, but the CGI is incredible. It's actually in Mandarin and with English subtitles. I got hooked. And it's a fantastic show based on Chinese philosophy and spirituality. And it's called Ashes of Love. And it talks about the 6 kingdoms. So there's heaven. And then you talked about the bird kingdom. That's the reason I brought it up. So it's got the bird kingdom. And then it has the flora fauna kingdom. Yeah, and then it has the water kingdom. And then it has the demon kingdom. And then it has the mortal kingdom.
Yes.
And these people in heaven, they're immortals. And they have a primordial spirit that comes with them. So they can drop into any one of those kingdoms. And when they do come into the mortal kingdom, if they want to, they can transform into their particular spirit, or they can take a human form, which they are in heaven. And they can also cloak themselves so they can walk amongst people and do things, But
yes,
the most amazing part of the show was where instead of living they live for hundreds of thousands of years, but they could speed up their own personal development by working with the astrologer, and then they come through in a portal, and then they get reincarnated as a human mortal without any awareness of their immortality. and they come to learn the 7 deadly sins of humanity. And then in that process, it might be 80 years in this mortal world, but in the immortal world in heaven, it's only 3 days for them. Yeah.
Yes.
And so they go through this 80
I'm very
years
familiar with this
human
concept.
existence, and then boom, they kick the bucket, and then and they got their immortality back, and think, oh, thank you for the lessons I've just learned. So they've just speeded up their own development.
Yes, exactly. That's right. It's like a lot of things we can talk about passing
It's
out
an
in the
amazing
journey of
show.
souls. Oh,
Chinese
phenomenal.
amazing, phenomenal thing.
You'd be surprised. There'd be a lot of that remnants in a lot of cultures around the world that those that keep the knowledge or have it, it doesn't seem to get given out to those until they're ready. But you could do that from probably the Norse or even the Russian, and I'm sure it's there in parts of the ancient origines of Japan and all over the world here in the Americas and things like this, where you can move into other planes and dimensions, or you come from a higher plane. I show this. It was actually done. I have like maps to show you how planes and dimensions work and how to access these things. And as I say, even just off the top of our heads, you could say, oh, there's heaven and there's hell, and then there's the abyss, and then there's the twin paradises, there's pandemonium, there's limbo, there's Tartarus, there's nirvana, all these different planes and dimensions. Because when one is studying and meditating, under really good teachers, you can access etheric planes, astral planes, monastic planes, Buddhic planes. This isn't just like average new age. This is like full tilt. You access, so the vibration and the spin speed of your consciousness changes to that particular plane to access it. It's like having a swipe card or a retina scan or a thumbprint scan. It just gets you access. People, as I said, try to explain like 4 or 5 dimensions to people. Once they kind of get that, they can put a card into a wall and pull out money, and then, it's just, but once you understand the process, it's magic if you don't know what the thing is. But once you understand how it works, you do. So it's just syncing up this with that, and it's a code. It's the same with Stargates too, but that's a little bit more complex. But that's what it has. And some of the big battles on this planet, if you really know what it's about, the way they say the wars are, just peoples with their egos, and that, well, perhaps that is the case. But there's been big turf wars over some of these places, particularly in the Middle East. Anyway, I won't go into that. Otherwise, we won't be doing the next show.
Oh,
Get
gosh.
myself into trouble again.
Well, I think we best wind it up now, because I know we could go on many, many subjects, and absolutely fascinating. I mean, yeah, just amazing. I mean, there's so many tangents that we could go off. So I think you'll have to come back and we'll home in on something.
Would you like me back? Do we have a vote from the audience? Would you like me to come back and do more talks?
I have my friend in Adelaide who's a regular listener, and she's put, you're better than the 6 o'clock news, and I have to agree.
I should hope so.
Yeah, so
that's fantastic. Yes.
we'd love to have you back to share more knowledge.
Yeah,
So,
thank you. Yeah, this is my destiny. I definitely need to get this out before I step off this plane, in this physical form. So yeah, cool. So if people want me to come back, I'd love to. It's what I love doing. And thank you so much for having me, Jeffrey. And
it's been a pleasure.
For Miss Elemental Forrest, that's what I want to call you. Is that okay? Thank you so much. It's been wonderful. So hi to everyone there in the UK and all over the world, actually. So thank you very much. Andrena, it's been wonderful. Jeff, thank you so much.
Good, mate.
Okay.
So we'll come back. You set up the subjects and we'll do it, and I'll set it up with my course if people want to learn and study online. That's what I do. Thank you.
Okay. Hang on a sec. We got all these people saying thank you. We go with it. Put it up.
Yeah, so maybe if people want to put what they would like you to talk about, what comes up the most, and we'll see what the listeners want really to home in on, and we'll take it from there, eh?
Yeah. So I've probably got about 40 or 50 courses there ready to go. I just shape them and scope them. Yeah, but I'm not. I'll just promote them. Well, not promote them on the show. I'll go into it, and people, if they're interested, then we can go that way. Exactly. They get a coffee cup and a t-shirt. They get to play for the lounge suite and the holiday.
Okay. Hang on a second. There's no comment now. Hang on. They're all coming in now. Hang on a second. We'll say thank you. There you go. There's your good friend from South Australia. Yeah. We're just doing this to let people know that we appreciate them.
No, thank you so much. It's been wonderful. It's good. I can just get off my leash for a while and just, run, do my spiritual jog, as it were.
Okay. All right. Love you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you,
Thank you, everybody.
Okay.